Okay, we're on. All right, it's been a long day, right? So thank you for showing after so much time and heat. So my name is Alejandro, and I'm very excited to be here sharing with you a vision. But first, let me get my glasses so we can all see the future here. There. So it's clear now. It's a vision. And you know what I see? I see the first citizens of our new decentralized nation. And in this nation, we work together as a community, regardless of race, gender, location, religion, any discrimination. And we do this because the constitution of this nation is built on instant trust. So how can I instantly trust any of you? And it's because we build that trust together, not just because one person says that. So think of this nation as a big DAO, like the biggest of DAOs. And in this DAO, we need to do a better match between our talents and opportunities. We still have a long way to do that. We have a lot of challenges, like finding members for this decentralized nation. How can we give them access to the right resources? How can we get them the roles that they need? How can we have different teams and different people match different decisions based on what they know best? And also, who is the best member for each task? So first, let's play a game real quick. Who would you rather have as your partner in a future war? So this is just a warm-up. So who would you like Captain America or Deadpool? Captain America? Somebody? No, future war? Or Deadpool? Okay, Deadpool. Nice. So who would you rather hire as a senior developer for your DAO? The 40-year-old or teenage developer? Teenage developer, okay. And who would you hire as a new COO? Somebody called Beatrix? Somebody called Jihan? Beatrix? Jihan? We don't know, right? So the same. I mean, should I hire someone based in London? Someone based in Abuja, Nigeria? Some pseudonyms called Rios, some pseudonym called Pira. I mean, we don't know anything about these guys. But this is not a game. I mean, today, a lot of people is getting discriminated in their jobs. Women and people with non-European sounding names, they are less likely to be picked for interviews, even when they have the same skills. So a lot of discrimination going on in the world right now. So how can we improve this? So there's a new trend called blind hiring. And a study showed that 50% more women could get hired in orchestras, for example, when they do blind screening, or for example, like in these The Voice reality shows as well, like when the judges are behind a curtain or they're not seeing the actual person, 50% more women get hired. So there's obviously an unconscious bias. And we all want, like in this decentralized nation, be anonymous, pseudonymous. It's like the big trend. But how can we trust pseudonymous, right? We don't know if it's a real person, of if they have the required skills. So here's our vision for decentralized reputation. And we can see that all talks, and a lot of talks today here in Ethereum conference about identity and reputation. And the vision that we have is that, okay, so first you have some login and some public human-friendly name that's clearly public, and then you will have like go deep and deep, and there's a broad things things attached to our online reputation, that some of them are public NFTs, tokens, that anybody can see attached to our wallet. And some of them are public credentials that maybe we want to share. Maybe they are solvable tokens, maybe not. But there's obviously some things that are private and we don't want to share. And those could be even like the greater number of things that we have attached to our personalities. So those things we don't want to be public. We want them to be private. So they have to be stored somewhere private. And also, if we want to still get those verified so other people can trust them. So they enter verifiable credentials. So with Krebit, we're building a reputation passport that you can own. So recruiters, a first use case, can trust with verifiable credentials on them. So you can have education credentials, work credentials, and the more credentials you have, well, the more weight those skills that those credentials say about your identity. So how can we actually trust those credentials issued by, I don't know, I see a signature in one of those credentials, but why should I trust that, right? So what we're thinking is to build a web of trust where we have a marketplace of these verifiable credentials. And you will have different stamps on different credentials from different providers, issuing providers. So you will not have just your KYC or education or work experience signed by just one issuer. You can have multiple issuers. And this idea first came from my own experience when I was back in the day participating in one of the biggest Linux distribution, the Debian project. And that was a very successful Linux distribution, and it had a great reputation of being the most stable and secure. And they have a high bar, really high bar for members to enter that. So before DAOs and everything, there were open source projects were trying to solve this. And the way in the Debian project it was solved was by creating a web of trust. At that time, it was using GPG key signatures. So you had to go to a signing party. For example, here in one of the events in Debian, if we were to do that here, we will have in a party where we will sign each other's GPG key. And in that case, in today's case, we will do that the same, but we will sign our verifiable credentials to each other. That will be one way that we could create a web of trust. And with that, the trust will continue to expand. So we've been iterating on this. First, we started with a Gitcoin grant. So we are building this in public. We first created a first prototype in Rinkeby testnet. And the first use case that we did was assigning roles with verifiable credentials. We got about 400 people getting verified their Discord with and getting a role with a Discord bot. So that was first prototype. And now we are going to also show a prototype for NFT drop with verifiable credentials. This is going to be launched in Polygon in the next few weeks. So for example, you can have a community issue NFTs not with an allow list, but checking first if they have some credentials. Something like what Premint or some other tools are doing today. But you can try to do that with things that are more private. So for example, maybe if you are issuing some adult content NFTs, you don't want to do that for people that is not an adult. So you can have some credentials first to get verified that you are of an adult age. And that doesn't have to even be your passport on chain or stored somewhere. You can just show your passport to some verifier. They will just attest that you are older than the adult minimum age. And that way, you can then claim your adult content NFTs. So that could be another use case. And the next experiments that we'll run will be giving credential designer apps also to do something similar to what NFT drops are doing right now. So your communities could define what credentials you want to issue for what addresses, and then those members can claim those credentials and then present them. And then at the end of the day, what we will have is a community of people that has a lot of credentials, their skills, their reputation, and they will accumulate all of that so that recruiters and potentially DAOs and protocols can use those credentials to onboard the members. So we are building using Ceramic. So it's an open data model. We're using the W3C Verifiable Credentials schemas. And we are using the lead protocol to encrypt your data. And also, I think the main difference that we have with many other protocols that are trying to solve this is that we believe we should have off-chain credentials with some form of on-chain verification. So we do have a reputation token that you get when you register on-chain your off-chain credentials. And we have everything open and ready to compose as an SDK and using the graph. So with this, we can solve a lot of governance challenges. We can have recruiting, getting access, onboarding, governance, and project management, all with the verifiable credentials. So in our roadmap, as I was saying, we will first, so when you're trying to build a marketplace and a web of trust, you need to first get all the issuers of the credentials on board. So we'll be working a lot. I mean, we have not, this is the first time that we are showing the reputation passport in a conference. And it's the first time that we are letting people know that they can reserve their reputation passport, because we have been working under the hood, trying to consolidate and get to a schema and everything ready in Ceramic with other Ceramic applications, trying to get together what is that verifiable credentials is going to look like for developers and for people. And then we will get people to actually claim their reputation token, and then even go to Web2 and importing that reputation. So please go and reserve your reputation passport. We will be releasing it soon. And the main takeaway that I want you to take with you is we want to share our reputation. We want to keep our privacy. So please go to Krebit.id and claim your reputation token. And if you have any questions, I will happily answer them now. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm very interested in understanding how you're thinking about the reputation of the credential issuers, and also about, so it's really two questions. One is, okay, somebody issued me a credential, let's say it was INSEAD, and maybe somebody says, oh, that means you're smart, and somebody else means, oh, that means you're a snob, right? And that's fine, but the reputation of INSEAD itself is a reputation. So it's either a good school or a bad school or whatever. So how are you thinking about that? That's the first one, the reputation of the issuers. The second one is, oh, I got a degree from a school, or I worked at the company. You could say, okay, this is a credential that I actually worked as a Solidity developer at this company, but was I good? Right? So how are you thinking about those two things?
Yeah, those are great questions and very relevant. So the key problem, I think, that is exactly the key problem we're trying to solve. Like, I have this credential is signed by someone, but who is that someone? It's like really reputable. So our solution right now is to put together some tokenomics around that. So it's a simple tokenomics. And the tokenomics has to do with staking some of your reputation tokens so that you know that the wallet that signed that credential had some reputation. And we are using a special token because it's not ERC20 completely. It has some restrictions for transferring it. So it's not really like a monetary token. It's a reputation social kind of token. So it's not transferable. And it's related to what they're trying to do with the soulbound token in the sense that it's not really a token. It's just some indication that you have some reputation and you're staking the reputation so that you can issue more credentials. So if your credentials, the credentials that issuer starts doing and the community finds them that they're not true, then they can dispute them and those reputation tokens would get slashed and burnt. So that's hopefully one way to solve it. The other way to solve this is to actually plug this into what they're proposing for soulbound tokens. So it's hard to try to commit to integrate with that, but some of projects have approached to us and say, okay, why don't we do not storing the credential as a soulbound token, but a representation or something that we can relate to that token on chain. Sorry, and what was the other question?
So first I want to address that.
You want the mic?
So first of all, as an industry, I think it's a mistake to use the terminology soulbound token, both because it's patented, it's an intellectual property of another company, and because we can't even do meat-bound tokens. So I don't think we should be using that type of terminology. But let's talk, because that's not how reputation happens. Reputation happens because other people think something about you. It doesn't happen because you stake money. And if you do, it doesn't matter how much you stake, but if people can buy reputation with money, it doesn't make sense. So I'd love to talk to you more about that.
Yeah, completely agree.
Yeah, and the second one was about how are you thinking about something that's not just a certificate, but qualitative? Like he worked for me and he was good,
Yes.
not just he worked for me.
Right. So there's two ways. So the other component is that you don't definitely, you should not be able to buy reputation. I mean, you should earn the reputation by getting the credentials issued to you. And one indication of how good you are or how trustable that credential could be is that having a lot of credentials for that. So doing the parallel with the example I gave for the Debian project. So in the Debian project, your your GPG signature will be signed by a lot of developers. So the more developers that will sign your key, the more trustable that information will be because each of them will verify that. So the way we're thinking is, okay, maybe you have a credential that you're older than 21 years old. So maybe you have that from one issuer, I can trust you, but maybe I'm a financial application and I have a higher bar. So maybe I will require from you that you have 3 different issuers to tell me the same, that you are older than 21. So each application will have like different bar of what is the minimum number of verifications for that credentials that you present. So that will be an indication of how trustable that particular credential is. Makes sense? Thanks. Thank you.